Hello there. So as you can see on this screen, this is a character logo, and I think for any anime person, I think she's known as the Queen of Degeneracy, Sit Snap, if I'm correct. I don't know. I'm not subscribed to her. Sorry to say this, but she created a video that was talking about Selfcest. I think about a month or 2 months ago. I'm always behind everything. I don't have the social media. You know what I mean? None of that shit. So I'm not really like followed up or up to date with most people. But besides the point, she created a very interesting video. I think talking about the Selfcest tag in doujinshi, which is this idea of basically you being fucked by yourself, basically, not like you like doing it to yourself, but in terms of like actually like you're having sex with like a clone of yourself, if that kind of makes sense for what I'm saying here. Now, she made the video talking about the tag, and while I was watching the video, I was like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. And so she gave me a great fucking idea. Unpopular opinion number, I don't know where we're at, 4, 5. Who the fuck cares? I'll title it in the video. Everyone will hear it now. And it's very simple. This video is the Selfcest tag shouldn't exist because it's stupid. It's retarded, it's dumb, and it doesn't make any logical sense. All right, and we'll start real simple. So I'm sorry. Let me start with the premise, basically, of Selfcest, and then we'll go into the question. The premise of Selfcest is that it's possible to be able to fuck yourself in some way, shape, or form, screw yourself, have sex with yourself, however you want me to say it. I'm not getting that monetized. I'm not making any money, so it doesn't fucking matter to me. Is that you can basically have sex with your clone, or in this case, a lot of Selfcest has a lot of FGO characters, which they have a lot of like different alts and versions of themselves, and alternative reality versions of themselves, basically, but they're still technically the same person, which I'm gonna come and basically disagree with that whole statement, but we'll get to that point later. I argue that doesn't make any actual logical sense if you think about it. I'll start with the most simple and basic example. The question is, do genetically identical twins, if they were to screw each other, would that be considered Selfcest? Because in every way, shape, or form, they're genetically the same. Right? That's the clone argument people use, right? The clones, they'd be screwing each other, therefore they're the same. Whoopity-doo. And if you're basing it purely just on the genetic aspect, which seems to be what people are saying, because they're technically the same person, because they all have the same blood and shit, right? That argument, I think, falls flat on its head, okay? Because if by that standard you would argue two twins are technically self-fucking each other if they were to commit such a terrible act. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm not condoning any of this shit. I'm just arguing from a philosophical. I don't want to say philosophical. That'd be that'd be a disgrace to a lot of philosophers that I'm using their works to argue for this shit. But you get my point. It doesn't make any sense. You would have never said that two twins are screwing each other. They're the same person screwing themselves, right? It wouldn't make any sense. It's two separate people fucking each other who have blood relations. Therefore, it's incest, twincest, more like it, right? And that means there's something more to a person than merely blood relations, which then seems to suggest that just because you clone someone does not fucking mean they're the same person as the person who was cloned before. Which I think, as a general rule, would be true. But I'm going to bring up what I think is going to be an interesting thought experiment that I'm going to use to try to explain myself. Alright, so this is Paint 3D, okay? This is how I make all my thumbnails. Fuck off. I don't need people to judge my fucking drawing here. Oh, whoops, I fucked up there. Well, that's not good. It's not letting me move it. Whatever. You get the point. So, I want you to imagine yourself in this forest, and you'll understand what I'm going to go at. You're in this forest. Imagine, maybe you can imagine me and Joe. I don't know who Joe is. Going to think of him as Joe Exotic. Who the fuck cares? Doesn't matter. Me and Joe, G and Joe, walking down the forest. Now, Joe decides to take a slightly curved path, right, as you can see with this arrow, to basically look at this beautiful redwood tree that you see ahead of you. A large 1,000-foot tree. Beautiful big tree. I, on the other hand, keep going straight. Now, when I look straight, I see a beautiful tree, teeming full of life. It looks alive, it looks healthy, it looks strong. Now, Joe goes from the backside. And what does he see? He sees a dead, rotting tree full of fungus and mold, and it looks like it's about to fall, and I'm about to die because it's going to topple on me, okay? And so what happened there? What was the difference between what we saw? We had different perspectives, a shift in perspectives that gave us a different way of thinking about something. And so now this goes into a possible objection someone might have to what I just said. Is that, well, if the clones seem to have the same personality, therefore they're the same person. Now, while we can just say, just because someone has very similar or maybe even the same personality doesn't make them the same person, I'll go even deeper on this. All right? Imagine, there's G, then there's G2, my clone. Okay? We get cloned. And all of a sudden, we wake up, we stand up. However, at that point in time, even by the time G2 is created, we are two separate entities that will be looking at through the world through two different perspectives, similar to G and Joe here, looking at the same thing with two different perspectives. Even if me and him had the same, G and G2 had the same personality, when we look at a dog, we're always going to look at it from a different perspective that will shape and change our thoughts. And just by that standard, you have basically created a new thinking, live, new person that is going to be and is totally different and totally separate from the person before. G and G2 can never be the same people ever after that cloning, because they'll always have different thoughts, different perspectives, different things, and they can never look at anything from the same perspective. Basically, to make it simple and short, different perspectives leads to different individuals and individual outlook on life, individual thoughts, memories, brain, etc. And it'll change some part and aspect of the body and the mind that will never be seen in the other person. Therefore that has to be a separate person. It can only be a separate person, similar to twins, right? Twins may have the same everything. They're basically clones of each other, but right at birth or even during when they're being birthed, they're already going to have different sensations, different experiences occur at them. And those experiences shape up who they are and will lead them to have individual characteristics and thoughts. Similar to G and G2. It's the same thing. Always will be. And I think the G and Joe thought experiment here basically shows that your perspective does change how you think, how you react, and what you will do. Joe sees a tree that's about to kill G. He has to help him. G sees a tree that's beautiful. He's going to go hug it and probably die because the thing's about to topple over. That is a very extreme example, but that example is happening all the time. Even if you are cloned, right? When you're cloned, you're just going to have that same experience. It'll be on a smaller level. Maybe you see, for example, I see, maybe me, G, and G2 sees this white-coated man. What G2 sees is a white-coated man with a firearm. What I see is a white-coated man with a heart on his on his lab coat. We're gonna assume two very different things about this person. For those FGO fans, I'm gonna make it real simple, real clear here. I'm gonna take the example of Shiro Emiya and Archer Emiya. Right, these two, and big spoilers, who gives a shit? You should already know this. Basically, they're technically the same person, or someone from the future. Right, this is Archer. He is the future Shiro, basically. Right, now, people would say, they're the same people, they're the same person. I would argue, no, they aren't. Shiro Emiya has yet to become this future Archer, and future Archer is no longer Shiro Emiya in every case, shape, or form. Now, they may have similar personalities, but their experiences are totally different from one another. And the experiences that they had have changed them to be the people that they are today. They're still individually different from each other, similarly to G and G2, right? Now, I can go into simply some theories of identity, and we'll try to explain it through those. So, for example, Shiro Emiya, if you subscribe to the soul theory, right? Shiro Emiya, this person, his soul has not changed to be like Archer Emiya's soul in any way, shape, or form as of yet. He hasn't had the experiences, he hasn't had the issues that plagued Archer Emiya, this person here. Their souls are different. Different people, different individuals. The essence of the soul is different between these two. Maybe you can argue that they stay the same, but no, but souls can change. Souls can be affected. It has to be affected in order to change over time. An underlying essence. Unless I said this wrong, and someone can just tell me that I'm wrong, I'm not as well versed in it. There is the bundle theory, which I think is very interesting. The bundle theory, well, it depends which type, but I'm going to do the most simplest, David Hume's. The bundle theory would basically say there is no underlying essence for you as an individual. Me, G, has no underlying essence, but I have characteristics. So, for example, an apple, there's no underlying essence to an apple. An apple is just a characteristic. It's round, it's red, it has a stem, it's juicy, but you change it enough, it's no longer an apple, right? If you take some of those characteristics away. So basically, Shiro Emiya and Archer Emiya, their characteristics are basically almost totally different from each other. And under the bundle theory, they are not the same people, right? Archer Emiya is this fucking cynical bastard who kills a bunch of people. Shiro Emiya is a person who basically refuses to kill anyone until he does that, and he's still very idealistic. He believes in his ideals. Shiro Emiya Archer doesn't. Right? The characteristics of these individuals are totally different, and under the bundle theory, actually, the me now that I'm speaking to you from the me that I was speaking like a sentence ago are totally different, because there's characteristics that have been changed enough to have caused me to change, because maybe I have less cells now, I have less white blood cells, more white blood cells, right? Maybe my eyesight's gotten worse, right? As you know, I maybe have more white hairs now. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You get my point. But the characteristics of me have changed from before I started the sentence to after, and certainly certain bundle theory case. And bundle theory would say there is no real self-identity, at least the most simplistic one. There's ones that argue there is perpetual identity with the characteristics, but that's a little, I don't want to go into that too much detail with that. But in terms of the bundle theory, there's basically no self-identity. You kind of change, like a river flows and changes, right? And so Archer Emiya, Shiro Emiya from before, but at the beginning of Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works is different from when at the end. Archer Emiya, different from the start of Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, and different when he's towards the end. There's of course this is the memory theory, and the memory theory basically states your identity is based upon your memory. Now, in this case, Shiro Emiya doesn't have any of the memories that Archer Emiya has. And in many cases, Archer Emiya doesn't even really have any memories of what Shiro Emiya was like, or even from himself from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So under the memory theory, I mean, of course you could say they were linked, but it's that also to the fact that because they are different versions of each other, they have different memories of events that occurred, right? And that's in the Fate Go and the Fate universe. I'm not gonna say Fate Go. I keep saying FGO. Sorry, because people know FGO more, I guess. But I call it the Fate universe because I don't know. I'm not really into the FGO mobile craze. I'm not into that shit. But you get my point. They probably even have different memories from one another because they are technically not even from the same universe. They're different universes kind of colliding. If I'm correct to say this, someone can correct me. A Fate fan who's probably much more knowledgeable can probably correct me. If there's inaccuracies, I'll make addendums to this fucking video. I really will. Just, you got to tell me in the comments stuff. But that's my understanding of this show, right? Like this Fate Stay Night Archer Emiya, I think is from the past self of Fate Stay Night, of the Fate Stay Night Emiya, if I'm correct. But I don't know. I'm really assuming a lot of things here. I could be wrong, and I probably am. But they're different universes. They're different people from each other. They've done different decisions from one another, right? And their memories are going to be different from one another, right? This Shiro Emiya probably doesn't do the same decisions that this Archer Emiya does. And even under the memory theory, you can't square those two. They have to be different people. Now this will be my my last one, is the body theory, the body identity theory, and more specifically the mind, body, brain theory. The brain theory. I'll call it the brain theory. Fuck it. Basically, this theory claims your identity is numerical. It's numerical. It's your body, basically. Well, let's just reduce it real quick. You can cut off an arm, cut off a leg, cut off your penis, whatever you want to cut off. You're still going to be you. What's important, I guess, in this theory, and I would always argue this, is your brain. If you have your brain, and you still have it, you are still you. And you will perpetually be the same, no matter what, as long as you have that brain. Now, under this theory, you might say, hey, wait a second. This theory might actually prove the clone stuff. But you forgot. I intended this. That's why I already made that first thought experiment, right? Because the brain has changed enough, and the brain is separate from one another. Even under a clone situation, they're going to be two different brains no matter what. because the experiences that the two clones will have, or the two people will have, will always be different for one another, no matter what happens. Different perspectives, different experiences, different probabilities will occur to these separate brains, and they will always be separate from one another, and they will be different from the moment they are born. From the moment they're born, they're already changing to be specific to that individual. So again, brain theories can still disprove the clone stuff, can still disprove all that stuff about Selfcest. Okay, you thought you had me there, but I was ready. That's why I already brought up those examples that I had. In terms of Shiro Emiya, I think it's fucking pretty clear. Shiro Emiya's brain has been changed fucking enough, or the brain is pretty much different from the regular Shiro Emiya. I don't think they can be considered the same person as of this point. This person's been around for 1,000 years, and most likely comes from a different universe with a different Shiro Emiya brain in it. This person hasn't even dealt with any of that. Doesn't even have those changes to his brain yet. They're not the fucking same, right? I went on a long-winded tangent, but of all this brain theory and personal identity stuff. I should read more, and I hope I didn't do fucking terrible on this video. But if you have disagreements with me, I'll try my best to learn more and create an addendum if you have disagreements with what I've said. But thank you again, and that's it. Selfcest is stupid. So so stop calling it Selfcest. Just call it twincest, or just call it incest. It's not Selfcest, because you can't actually fuck yourself. Sorry to say that, boys.